What if I told you that the mental chaos you experience every day, that constant stream of worries and thoughts that never stops, is not something you need to fight against or escape from? What if the very act of trying to control your mind, trying to force it to be quiet, is what keeps the chaos alive? I have spent decades in meditation halls and quiet forests, observing the nature of mind, and I have discovered what the Buddha taught 25 centuries ago. Peace does not come from controlling your thoughts, but from transforming your relationship with them through the ancient practice of mindfulness. This is not a mental trick. This is not another productivity technique to add to your already exhausted mind. This is the path walked by the Buddha himself and countless enlightened beings who discovered that freedom lies not in having a perfectly quiet mind, but in understanding the true nature of consciousness itself. Before we journey deeper into this teaching, I invite you to make a sacred commitment to yourself. In the comments below, write these words: I release attachment and embrace impermanence. This simple act is not magic, but it is powerful. It is a symbolic gesture of your willingness to let go of the need to control every thought, every feeling, every moment. When you write these words, you are declaring that you are ready to walk the middle way. The path that the Buddha discovered leads directly to the end of suffering. You are emptying your hands of all the burdens you have been carrying, making space for the peace that is your birthright. Let me speak to you honestly about the chaos in your mind. Every day you wake up and immediately your thoughts begin their relentless parade. What do I need to do today? What if this goes wrong? Why did I say that yesterday? What will happen tomorrow? The voice in your head never stops, does it? Does it? And you have been taught that a successful person, a good person, is someone who can manage all of this, who can keep all the plates spinning, who can think their way through every problem. But I am here to tell you that this is the modern disease. This belief that more thinking, more planning, more controlling will bring you peace. The truth is the opposite. The Buddha called this dukkha, the fundamental suffering that arises when we try to grasp the ungraspable, when we try to make permanent what is inherently impermanent. Your mental chaos is not a personal failure. It is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It is the natural result of a mind that has not been trained in mindfulness. A mind that identifies with every thought that arises and believes that thinking is who you are. You have forgotten that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness in which thoughts appear. This confusion, this ignorance that the Buddha called avidya, is the root of your suffering. Is the root. You mistake the clouds for the sky. You mistake the waves for the ocean. And in that confusion, you exhaust yourself trying to control something that was never meant to be controlled. Many centuries ago, there lived a prince who had everything the world could offer: wealth, pleasure, protection from all suffering. His name was Siddhartha, and his father built palace walls to keep him from seeing the truth of life. But one day, this prince ventured beyond the walls and saw what had been hidden from him: old age, sickness, death. He saw that no amount of wealth or pleasure could protect him or anyone else from the fundamental facts of existence. And so he left everything behind to seek an answer to the question that burns in every human heart: is there a way to end suffering? He tried extreme practices, nearly starving himself to death. He tried indulgence, surrounding himself with every comfort. But neither extreme brought him peace. Then one night, sitting beneath a tree, he simply sat still and observed his mind with complete honesty. And in that observation he awakened. He became the Buddha, the awakened one. The first teaching the Buddha gave after his enlightenment was the Four Noble Truths, and they remain as relevant today as they were then. The first noble truth is that life contains suffering. Not that life is only suffering, but that suffering is woven into the fabric of existence. Your mental chaos is proof of this truth. The constant anxiety, the endless worrying, the feeling that you can never rest because there is always something more to think about, to plan, to control. This is dukkha. And the Buddha asks you to see it clearly, not to depress you, but to free you. The second noble truth reveals where suffering comes from. It arises from tanha, from craving and attachment. You want your mind to be different than it is. You want your thoughts to stop. You want peace, and you grasp for it desperately. But this very grasping is what prevents peace from arising. Here is where hope enters, and this is crucial for you to understand. The third noble truth states that it is possible to end suffering. Not by changing your circumstances, not by achieving some special state of mind, but by seeing clearly the nature of reality and releasing your attachment to how things should be. This liberation is called nirvana, the extinction of the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. It is available to you right now in this moment when you stop fighting your experience and start observing it with mindfulness. And the fourth noble truth is the path itself, the noble eightfold path that the Buddha taught: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These 8 aspects work together to transform your consciousness from confusion to clarity, from suffering to peace. Right view means seeing things as they truly are, understanding the law of impermanence, the nature of suffering, and the truth of non-self. Right intention means cultivating thoughts of kindness, compassion, and letting go rather than thoughts of craving, aversion, and harm. Right speech, right action, and right livelihood mean living ethically, causing no harm through your words, deeds, or how you make your living. Right effort means applying yourself to the practice with gentle persistence, neither forcing nor giving up. Right mindfulness is the key practice I will teach you today, paying attention to the present moment with clear, non-judgmental awareness. And right concentration means training your mind to rest in focused, stable attention. This is the complete path from chaos to clarity, from suffering to liberation. To walk this path, you must first understand the nature of the reality you are walking through. The Buddha taught us the 3 marks of existence, 3 characteristics that apply to all phenomena without exception. The first mark is anicca, impermanence. Everything that exists is constantly changing, constantly in flux. Your thoughts arise and pass away. Your emotions come and go like weather patterns moving across the landscape. Your body is aging every moment, cells dying and being born, never the same from one second to the next. The circumstances of your life shift and transform. Nothing stays fixed. Nothing remains permanent, not even for an instant. The flower blooms and then it withers. The seasons turn in their eternal cycle. The people you love will change and eventually die, as will you. This is not pessimism. This is simply seeing what is true. The mental chaos you experience is largely caused by your resistance to this truth of impermanence. You want your thoughts to be different. You want your mental state to be fixed and stable. You want certainty in an uncertain world, but life does not work that way. When you truly understand impermanence, when you see it not just intellectually but in your direct experience, something profound shifts. You stop fighting the flow of life and you learn to move with it. You stop trying to freeze the river and you start swimming in it. You realize that this moment, whatever it contains, will pass. The anxious thoughts will pass. The mental chaos will pass. Even your resistance to it will pass. Everything passes. This too shall pass. The second mark of existence is dukkha, the suffering or unsatisfactoriness that comes from clinging to impermanent phenomena. As long as you grasp at things that are constantly changing, as long as you try to find permanent happiness in an impermanent world, you will experience this fundamental dissatisfaction. Even pleasant experiences become sources of suffering because you know they will end and you try desperately to hold on to them. Even your achievements feel empty because you immediately start worrying about losing them. This is not because there is something wrong with you. This is the natural result of not understanding the first mark of existence. When you cling to the impermanent, suffering is inevitable. The third mark is anatta, non-self, and this is perhaps the most liberating and most misunderstood teaching of the Buddha. When the Buddha looked deeply into experience, he asked, "Where is this self that I think I am? Is it my body? But my body is constantly changing, so how can it be a permanent, unchanging self? Is it my thoughts? But thoughts arise and pass away. They come from conditions and dissolve back into emptiness. Is it my feelings? But feelings are like clouds passing through the sky of awareness, here one moment and gone the next." What the Buddha discovered is that what we call the self is actually a process, not a thing. It is like a river that we give a name to, but the water is never the same from moment to moment. There is no fixed, permanent self to be found anywhere. So much of your mental chaos comes from defending and protecting this idea of who you think you are. You worry about what others think of you, about whether you are good enough, smart enough, successful enough. You carry stories about your past and anxieties about your future, all centered around this sense of me and mine. But when you see through the illusion of a fixed self, when you understand anatta deeply, a tremendous lightness arises. You realize you have been defending a ghost, protecting something that was never really there in the first place. The thoughts still arise, the feelings still come and go, but they no longer have the same weight because you are not taking them so personally. This is the freedom that comes from understanding non-self. Now let me teach you the practice of mindfulness that will end your mental chaos instantly. not by making your thoughts disappear, but by transforming your relationship with them so completely that they lose their power to disturb you. Find a quiet place where you can sit for a few minutes without being disturbed. Sit in a comfortable position with your spine straight but not rigid, allowing your body to be both alert and relaxed. You can close your eyes or lower your gaze to the floor in front of you. Take a moment to set your intention. I am here to observe, not to control. I am here to see clearly, not to change what I see. Begin by bringing your attention to your breath. Notice the sensation of air entering your nostrils, cool and fresh. Notice your chest and belly expanding. Notice the brief pause at the top of the breath. Notice the air leaving your body warm and soft. Notice the pause at the bottom of the breath. You are not trying to breathe in any special way. You are simply observing the breath as it naturally is. This practice, which the Buddha called anapanasati, is the foundation of all mindfulness meditation. It anchors your awareness in the present moment, in the direct physical experience of being alive. As you continue to observe your breath, you will notice that your mind begins to wander. This is not a problem. This is not a failure. This is simply what minds do. Thoughts will arise, plans for later, memories from earlier, judgments about how well you are meditating, worries about everything you should be doing instead of sitting here. When you notice that your attention has drifted away from the breath, this moment of noticing is actually the most important moment of the practice. This is mindfulness itself, this clear awareness that says, "Oh, I was lost in thought." In that moment, without any judgment, without any criticism, gently bring your attention back to the breath. Again and again, as many times as necessary, you return. This returning is the practice. This is how you train the mind. Now I want you to understand something crucial about the mental chaos you experience. The chaos is not actually the thoughts themselves. The chaos is your relationship with the thoughts. When a thought arises and you identify with it, when you believe it completely, when you follow it down the rabbit hole of associated thoughts and feelings, that is when chaos takes over. But there is another possibility. When a thought arises, instead of automatically believing it and following it, you can simply observe it. You can note, there is a worried thought, there is a planning thought, there is a judging thought. You are not suppressing the thought. You are not fighting it. You are not trying to make it go away. You are simply seeing it clearly, the way you might watch a bird fly across the sky. The bird appears, flies across your field of vision, and disappears. The thought appears, moves across your awareness, and dissolves back into emptiness. This is the practice of vipassana, insight meditation, seeing things as they truly are. As you sit and observe your breath, and as thoughts arise, practice seeing them as events in awareness rather than as who you are. Notice that there is a space between you and your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that knows thoughts are happening. The Buddha compared the mind to the sky and thoughts to clouds. The clouds come and go, sometimes dark and heavy, sometimes light and wispy, but the sky remains unchanged, vast and open. Through mindfulness practice, you learn to rest as the sky rather than identifying with the clouds. This shift from being caught in thoughts to observing thoughts is what ends mental chaos instantly. Let me guide you to deepen this practice. As you continue to sit and breathe and observe, ask yourself this question and let it rest gently in your awareness. What happens if I simply watch this thought without grasping it? What happens if I let this worry be here without trying to solve it right now? You are not seeking an intellectual answer. You are creating a space of curiosity and gentleness around your experience. Notice what happens when you stop fighting the mental chaos and start observing it with compassion. Notice how the energy that was tied up in resistance begins to release. Notice how thoughts that seem so solid and important begin to reveal their transparent, empty nature. This practice is the middle way that the Buddha taught. You are not suppressing your thoughts, which would be one extreme. You are not indulging them and following them endlessly, which would be the other extreme. You are finding the balanced path between these extremes, the path of clear observation without attachment or aversion. This is true equanimity, not a dull indifference, but a wise balance that can meet any experience with steady, compassionate awareness. When you practice in this way, even for just a few minutes, you will begin to notice signs of transformation. The first thing you may notice is space. Where before there was a constant stream of thoughts running together with no breaks, now you begin to see gaps. Moments of silence between thoughts, moments of stillness. These gaps are not emptiness in the sense of nothingness. They are fullness, they are peace, they are your natural state of awareness before it gets covered over by mental activity. You may also notice a quality of lightness beginning to arise. The heaviness that comes from carrying so many thoughts, so many worries, so many plans begins to lift. It is as if you have been wearing a heavy backpack full of stones and you are finally setting it down. Your breath flows more easily, the tension in your shoulders and jaw releases. The tightness in your chest softens. This is not because you have solved all your problems. This is because you have stopped creating additional suffering by fighting with your experience. You have stopped adding resistance to what is already here, and in that stopping, your natural ease can reveal itself. Another sign of deepening practice is clarity. The Buddha often compared the untrained mind to muddy water that is constantly stirred up. You cannot see through it, you cannot see what is at the bottom. But when you stop stirring the water, when you allow it to become still through mindfulness practice, the mud settles and the water becomes clear. In the same way, when your mental activity begins to settle through meditation, clarity arises. You see your situation more accurately. You understand your own patterns and habits more clearly. You recognize which thoughts are helpful and which are just repetitive loops that serve no purpose. This clarity is wisdom, prajna, one of the great fruits of the Buddha's path. As you continue to practice mindfulness, you will also begin to notice that the quality of your awareness itself is changing. At first, when you are new to meditation, awareness feels like a spotlight that you are trying to aim at your breath or your thoughts. It requires effort. You lose focus frequently, but over time, with patient practice, awareness becomes more natural, more effortless. It is less like aiming a spotlight and more like being the light itself. This is what the Buddha called right concentration, the seventh aspect of the Eightfold Path. Your mind learns to rest in calm, focused presence, not through force, but through familiarity. You discover that your true nature is already awake, already aware, and the practice is simply removing the obstacles that prevented you from recognizing this. I want you to understand that this transformation is not about reaching some special state that you then lose and have to struggle to get back to. The Buddha's teaching is not about achieving a peak experience. It is about recognizing what is always already here beneath the chaos, your basic awareness, which has never been disturbed, which is like the depths of the ocean that remain calm even when storms rage on the surface. When you truly realize this, when you taste this depth of peace even once, you understand that you are not trying to create something new. You are uncovering what has always been present. This realization is what the Buddha meant by awakening. Not that you become someone special or gain some supernatural power, but that you wake up from the dream of separation, from the illusion that you are just this small, anxious self at the mercy of every passing thought. You recognize your true nature as vast awareness itself, and you see that thoughts, feelings, sensations all arise within this awareness like waves arising in the ocean. The waves cannot disturb the ocean. The thoughts cannot disturb your true nature. This understanding brings profound peace, not because your circumstances have changed, but because your relationship to all circumstances has transformed completely. The path I am describing is the path to nirvana, to the complete liberation from suffering, but you do not need to wait until some future time to taste this freedom. It is available right now, in this very moment, when you practice mindfulness with sincerity and patience. Each time you observe a thought without getting caught in it, you are practicing liberation. Each time you return your attention to the breath after wandering, you are strengthening the capacity for clear seeing. Each time you meet your experience with compassion rather than judgment, you are walking the Buddha's path. Let me speak to you about compassion, because it is inseparable from wisdom in the Buddha's teaching. As you observe your mental chaos with mindfulness, you may notice judgment arising. You may think, I shouldn't have so many thoughts. I'm not good at meditation. Other people probably don't struggle like this. These judgments are just more thoughts, and they add another layer of suffering on top of the chaos. Instead, I invite you to meet your busy mind with the same compassion you would offer to a small child who is frightened or confused. Place your hand on your heart if you wish, and say silently to yourself, it's okay to have these thoughts. It's okay for my mind to be busy. I meet this moment with kindness. This is metta, loving kindness, and it softens everything. As we come toward the close of this teaching, I want to remind you that what I have shared is not theory, it is practice. The Buddha did not ask anyone to believe his teachings. He said, come and see for yourself, test this in your own experience. So I invite you to practice mindfulness today, even if only for 5 minutes. Sit quietly, observe your breath, Watch your thoughts without getting caught in them and notice what happens. Notice how the mental chaos begins to settle when you stop fighting it. Notice the peace that emerges when you allow things to be as they are. If this teaching resonates with your heart, if you feel called to continue walking this path of the Dharma with me, I invite you to subscribe to this channel so that we may journey together. Leave in the comments the phrase we spoke of at the beginning. I release attachment and embrace impermanence. Let this be your declaration of freedom, your willingness to let go of the exhausting need to control every thought and instead rest in the natural awareness that has always been here, patiently waiting beneath the noise. The Buddha discovered something extraordinary 25 centuries ago, that mental chaos ends not through more effort, more control, more struggle, but through the simple practice of mindful observation. When you stop fighting your mind and start observing it with clear, compassionate awareness, peace arises naturally like the sun emerging when clouds pass. You have always had this capacity. You have always been this awareness. The practice simply helps you remember what you have temporarily forgotten. Walk this path with patience, walk it with kindness toward yourself, and discover the liberation that the Buddha promised, the end of suffering through understanding, through letting go, through resting in the vast peaceful awareness that is your true nature. May you be at peace. May you be free from suffering. May you awaken to who you truly are.